Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Confirmation. And as you can see on your screen, Pastor Stewart's not up this week. This is me, Pastor Jim, my first time with all of you. And as you can see, I'm just in my basement here, pretty plain setting compared to Pastor Stewart's setting with all the Legos and everything. But it's okay that it's plain because tonight I'm just going to take some time to share some photos with you and kind of just share a little bit about myself since I haven't met hardly any of you since everyone's staying home with the pandemic and not being in the building, which is great. I'm glad all of you are being safe, and hopefully you're tuning in to watch us on Sunday mornings and at 10:30. And I hope that's a part of your regular routine. And I know it may not just be Sunday mornings at 10:30, but throughout the week, whenever you can just chime in on Facebook on Peace Lutheran's page and just see what we're up to there. We're in a new message series right now, Who Needs Christmas? And last week the theme was The World Did. And this week we're going to talk about God. You know, we always talk about God sending Jesus and the gift of Jesus that we celebrate on Christmas Eve with all the music and everything. But it's a focus of God. What did God receive at Christmas? So hope you can tune in this week for that. And I know from the files I've seen is that Stuart's kind of been going down various unique themes with the Bible, with God, and what have you. And tonight, I'm going to share with you a little bit about myself, like I said, but also a little bit about the season of Advent. We're in this holy season at church, and we have 4 candles. And this is kind of like the season that, especially in 7th and 8th grade, it's like, why do we have this season? How does it relate to us? It's just kind of unique. We kind of just do these things at church, and people just kind of assume that that's what we do. And then it's like, well, why do we do that? So I want to share a little bit about myself and then a little bit about Advent and then wrap it up tonight, okay? So hope you're on your screen. I went through some time to share these photos with you, so I'm going to not rush through everything, but I just want to kind of just, with these photos, is to kind of share some aspects about me, where we were in Florida, since I haven't had a considerable time. My time with all of you has been minimal, so I want to share some details of where we are, or where we were, and more about my family, things we enjoy, and why. Because I've been in your age, when I was your age, it's kind of one of those details you have a new teacher, or especially a new pastor, you want to know a little bit about him or her, and it'd be kind of rude for me just to come and share a 10-minute presentation, 15-minute presentation with all of you and not really have any much of a connection. So I just want to try and make a connection with you, and if your mom or dad are watching, with your folks as well. All right, so I'm going to go down the screen here, and hopefully you can see the photos, and me in the corner there is what I'm going to share is just where we were. So this is Apostles Lutheran in Brandon, Florida, and Brandon is an eastern suburb of Tampa. We moved down there in the spring of 2016. And as you can see, I kind of like to have a lighthearted atmosphere in worship, while also being respectful, of course, as it is worship. And that's a selfie during one of the worship services there. And on the bottom corner there on the right-hand side, my right-hand side, is Christmas Eve. Poinsettias are a big deal in the congregation there, obviously with a mild climate, and they can linger around for a while. And there's Christmas Eve that evening. That was my final Christmas Eve there because we moved a couple months later. So there's Apostles, congregation, average worship attendance at the first service was about 100. And the second service was about 150 to 200. We had a traditional service. The first service was led by an organ and a choir of about 20 people. And then we had an education time for half an hour between services in Tice Hall on the other side of campus. And then the second service was contemporary. With our band director was Jose Rivera. Then he left a couple years before I did, and he went to a much bigger church, which was great for him. But then Matt Clark, who was in our band, we hired him to be our band director, and I'll share some of that. So the band had contemporary music, kind of like music you hear on the radio, and it was kind of standard. They had 2 different services, and that was their pride. They wanted 2 different services, 2 different worship styles. So having a band was pretty cool there too. And being there, we were there for 4.5 years. And while we were in Florida, I'm going to share with you some opportunities we had that we seized. And one of them was meeting some wonderful people. You can see the photo there. We went up to Georgia to meet President Carter and his wife, Rosalind. President Carter, what I like about him, obviously a former president, but he lives out his faith. He still lives after leaving the White House, he went back to his hometown and lives in a nice, modest-sized house. And he lives out his faith by through Habitat for Humanity and building homes for those in need. So it was pretty nice. And as you can see, Ben, that was one of the few photos we actually have him wearing a sport coat and tie. And it was kind of atypical. The rule, and you meet the president and his wife, is that no one can stand behind the president and his wife. The Secret Service, you can't see him in the photo, obviously, but there's a Secret Service agent on each side of us in the photo. But when President Carter saw Ben, he said he commented that he liked Ben's sport coat and tie. He looks really sharp. And Ben says, "Oh, I'm dressing up here, but my dad's a pastor and we go to church a lot." So President Carter commented that I'm a pastor, and he thought that was great. And him and his wife Rosalind broke the rules, and he allowed us to stand behind him for this photo, which is pretty cool. And then the other photo is Matt Maher, another contemporary artist and music artist. And he's one of our favorites for our families who listen to a lot of Matt Maher's music. And I heard him speak. I got to have the opportunity to meet him at a conference in Tampa, which is pretty cool. So just to let you know, I have about 15 slides. Okay, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go quite fast here. I don't want to bore you or anything, but I'm going to keep going here. Okay, I'm going to put my glasses on here too. So this is my family. That's obviously me in the back, and my sister Jody. She's 3 years older. And my mom and dad, Jim and Bev, and they live in Eau Claire, and they're pretty happy for us to be back in Wisconsin. So there we are. Michelle, she's a special ed teacher. My wife is a special ed teacher in West Appear, and she's from St. Paul. And there's Ben, Abby, and Katie, obviously us at the Magic Kingdom last fall, and the other photo is us with Mickey, that character at Epcot. So we were Disney pass holders, so we thought the opportunity to be there. We could go to Disney anytime we wanted, but we had to save our money to do that. It was quite expensive. So there we are at Disney. And this is a sign near our house. We had a couple ponds near our house in Florida. And this is kind of a familiar sign. And people who come to visit us thought it was kind of unique. Do not feed or disturb the alligators. So they're behind the house, across the street, there's a house, and behind that house was a pond. And there were 2 gators living in that pond. We didn't name them. But we made sure the dogs didn't run in the neighborhood. So there were gators, and we saw them quite often, but they're quite elusive. And when we did see them, it was kind of cool. So one of the unique things about living in Florida is that we had tropical storms every season. Every year we were there. The big one was Hurricane Irma in 2017. It was very unsettling to the point that, as you can see on the photos there, at the last minute, right over Cuba, it turned right and came right towards our home, right towards Tampa, the Tampa area. Beforehand, we boarded up the house. All the Floridians were very, very concerned. So when the Floridians are concerned about a hurricane, I'm concerned. So we boarded up the house. My buddy Dan there from church is helping board up our house. We didn't evacuate. A lot of people evacuated to Georgia and north, but we didn't. We decided to stay. And that was the headline, ready or not. It says the headline, Irma is projected to hit Tampa Bay today, and this is a killer hurricane. It was a Category 4, which is a very strong storm. And by the time it came to us, it was a Category 2. But when it gets to Category 3 or higher, it's obviously it's obviously a storm to be concerned about. So I'm not going to miss the hurricanes. We lived through hurricanes and tropical storms. We're going to move on. So after Irma, that was the shelves at Walmart before and after the storm, when everyone was packing up items for supplies. And those electrical trucks there, those were actually staged near our church parking lot. And all those trucks are from Illinois. A group of people from Illinois were stationed near our church in Brandon. And in our home in Lithia, it's just south of the church, our home, we were out without power for 4 days, but we had a generator that a friend gave to us. So having no power for 4 days when it was hot and humid was not enjoyable. So there's Hurricane Irma. And of course, in Florida, we like the beach. And there's Abby and my buddy Chad. He's an airline pilot. He likes to rent boats. So that was the first time we took Abby out on the water in Tampa Bay. And the photo with Abby, Ben, and Katie, that's their final day. That was their final beach day before we moved. And there's my reading spot just east of Tampa along the beach there. It was kind of fun to do. But you go to a beach once, it kind of loses its luster after a while. But so there's Abby and Katie. And in elementary school, most of the schools in our area have dress codes. And it was kind of surprising to me. So girls would have to wear skirts or shorts, and guys would have to wear shorts as well and matching tops. And it was kind of nice, especially for back to school shopping. So there they are at the school just down the street from about a mile from our house at Fishhawk Creek. So another thing about us living away is just traveling. Every Christmas except one, we flew home to be with relatives, and we would always fly up for 2 weeks in the summer. So there we are. We're kind of familiar with the airports in Tampa and the Twin Cities, and this is an aspect that's kind of nice. But when you get to do it a while, it kind of loses its fun and appeal. So another thing about our family, we're not going to miss the airports much either. So there's Ben. Ben is a musician. He likes music and cars. I'll show you about the cars. He was a bass player for a while in our band before we moved. He likes the cello. There he is chatting with his friend at a cello concert a couple years ago, and his band played at a Tampa Bay Bucks football game as well. So there he is playing his saxophone, bass, saxophone, cello, and he likes Lego. You know, there's a life-size Bugatti. It's a Bugatti that was shipped over from Germany. It was in Orlando for 3 days at the Lego store at Disney Springs. We drove over for free to see a life-size sports car made out of Legos, and it actually does run, and it's drivable, which is kind of cool. And at Disney, I don't know if all you guys or girls are into Dude Perfect, but we were at Disney at Animal Kingdom one time, and Ben thought he saw Cody. And sure enough, there he was. We walked over and introduced ourselves to Cody, and as you can see, by Ben's smile, he's pretty happy. And Dude Perfect, their tour was canceled this past summer, obviously, but they'll be touring again. Their near show will be in St. Paul. So Ben likes to watch Dude Perfect. And baseball, as you can see, we met Kevin Kiermaier. He's an all-star player for the Tampa Bay Rays, and Ben loves baseball. And Abby, she's our softball. She loves softball. She's a catcher and a pitcher. And being in Florida, they played year-round. They did not play in the summer, partly because it's too hot, and summer is a lot of travel ball, and we didn't want to be involved in travel ball, partly because it's too expensive, and we didn't want to spend money on travel ball. So there we are, Abby, and one of the opportunities for being in softball is that we had opportunities to meet some really cool players, and there we are. A couple years ago, we went over and got connected with the UW Madison women's softball team in Clearwater when they came down for a spring training tournament in March. And as you can imagine, we said we were from Wisconsin. And Abby was kind of excited to see the two players, the infielders there. And Katie was kind of shy, but evident by the photo, she doesn't look shy, but she didn't want to shy with all the other players. So the entire team came around Katie for a special picture, which is kind of cool. And this past spring, we had an opportunity to go and watch the U.S. Women's Olympic softball team. They're going to be playing in Tokyo, and they were just playing in a tournament. As a tour, and Abby went over and wore her all-star uniform and got to meet some of those players, which was kind of cool to meet some of those amazing athletes at the Olympic level. It was quite amazing, quite cool. And of course, we're baseball fans in our family. I'm wearing my Minnesota Twins shirt here, and we like the Yankees. And the Yankees have spring training in Tampa, and going to see a minor league game is like $5, but we would also go see spring training. And then on the photo there, some of you may recognize that player. That's big Aaron Judge, 6'6". He's like their star player there. So it was kind of neat to see those athletes training and get close to them. And okay, so I'm over halfway done now, everybody. Here we go. So these were the temperatures the first day they loaded up the semi at our house in preparation to move to Green Bay. It was 105, as you can see the heat index. But the next day on Friday, it was up to 110, 112. So it was really hot in our house because they had to keep the door open to move all the stuff out of our house. And our city is Brandon. You can see there, Brandon, just southeast, just east of Tampa, 105. So it was ridiculously hot this past March when we moved, very atypical. So, excuse me, there's the semi that just before they were leaving with most of our stuff. And there's the moving crew, the 4 guys that worked around the clock for a day and a half to load up everything in the heat. And it was a very tiring, laborious, crazy experience to load up everything in the heat. But it was good. So there we are. Speaking of baseball again, there we are in Fort Myers. We wanted to connect with the Twins. There's Ben with Eddie Rosario, one of their all-star players, and Katie. Get to meet Goldie, the mascot from the U of University of Minnesota. My wife graduated from the University of Minnesota with her master's degree. So this was the first game the Gophers college team played the pros. And it was kind of fun to go down there and see that. And as I said before, Ben likes cars, and we like racing. So we went to Daytona. That's about a 2-hour drive northeast of our house. And one in the corner there, the photo is Ben meeting with, I think it's Ryan Delaney, the driver for Menards. And that's his car there on the lower left too. So seeing Daytona was kind of cool, but we went to one of the races that were the cheapest. Tickets were only $15, and it was the weekend before the Indianapolis 500. So seeing everything for only $15 is pretty cool. One thing I like to do is travel, but within reason. And as you can see, we're so used to seeing cruise ships by living in Tampa with the port there. I have no interest in going on a cruise. Perhaps some of you have been on a cruise before, but I have no interest in going on a boat. Even though Jesus was in a boat and with the disciples and everything, I think going on a cruise does not sound fun, but my wife and my kids really want to go on a cruise. So we kind of want to share that photo because it's one of those things that I have no interest in doing. But if you've been on a cruise, I'm more than interested to hear your good stories of doing that. I also like to run. I've been completing marathons and half marathons. So this was a pretty special moment for me and Ben. This was after our first race together. We ran a 5K, which is just over 3 miles together. And we ran and walked. And that's Ben and his medal, and of course me next to him. And then that was the weekend I ran 4 races. And the final person I got to meet at the marathon was, as you can see, Daisy, which is kind of cool. And of course, Katie's worst parade ever sign was pretty funny and pretty cool to see. All right, so that's enough about me. So here we are in Advent. And if you're still paying attention, so now enough about me and our history. And so now you know a little bit about me and my interests and everything. So I want to talk a little bit about Advent here. So we're in a holy season in the church year. The church year starts with Advent. It's kind of unique because our regular church year starts in January. The church year starts often in December with Advent. And as you can see by the screen, Advent means it has a translation of coming or arrival, Advent, and something's beginning, something is arriving. So for Advent in the church, it's a hopeful anticipation or waiting for, first of all, the birth of Jesus, of course, which we celebrate in Christmas. And the other one is the second arrival of Jesus, when Jesus, who's in heaven now in God's heavenly kingdom, when he comes back down to earth and brings God's kingdom. And that's one of his promises to all of us, that someday God will come back down to earth and bring peace, hope, and joy to everything. So the season of Advent began in the 4th century. That's a long time ago. And it's been a Christian tradition since then, but it really started getting more widespread meaning in the 16th century. I'm not going to go into all the history there because that's just kind of boring stuff. But the key color in church, and perhaps you remember seeing this in church in Advent, is blue, is evident by the Advent wreath candles, blue. And why we have it blue is that it's just a different season compared to all the other. Every season of the church year has a color. And it was blue for Advent because it related to the night sky before the dawn. Like just before the sun comes over the horizon, there's that color of blue in the night sky. Blue with the season, with the sea and the sky before creation, before God made everything. Everything was blue with the water and everything. And of course, blue is also a color for royalty, as we recognize Jesus as our king. So that's some of the details there. So this photo here is one of our favorite movies, is Elf, and I'm sure you've seen it. And if you haven't, you gotta watch it. It's pretty funny. Okay, you remember this scene? Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. And then, of course, Santa! And he's so excited. Well, perhaps you feel that way, and I feel that way especially as well in the season of Advent, because we're looking forward to Christmas, that anticipation of having the gifts, and how we celebrate this year with gathering with family relatives or not. But as you can see, that this moment in the movie conveys that excitement and having Santa, and that's where we are. That's kind of like the excitement, the tone of Advent. It's the excitement, it's anticipation. And so it was that exciting anticipation that led us to one of the key details of Advent, that being the Advent wreath. So it's a wreath, and I'm sure you've seen this at Peace before. The candles on the 4 on the outside, and that 1 candle in the middle. And so this Reverend Johann Hinrich Wickren, German Lutheran pastor, in his church in Germany, a lot of the kids your age and older or younger kept asking him, is it Christmas yet? Is it Christmas yet? Is it Christmas yet? So finally, he just took a wheel, an old wagon wheel, and made this unique wreath. And as you can see on the screen there, there's the red candles and the white candles. So the red candles are for each day in December, or in Advent, the December days, and the white candles are the Sundays. So every day they would light a candle in response to the kids' questions to alleviate them from asking, is it Christmas yet? Is it Christmas yet? He would just light a candle so the kids would see how much closer they're getting to Christmas. And this was first Advent wreath was built. He built it in 1839. And it finally didn't make it to the United States as a tradition until the 1930s, almost 100 years later. It was kind of in Europe the whole time. And then it finally made it across the Atlantic as a tradition there. So when you see the Advent wreath at church, that's probably why we have the Advent wreath, is that because of children in church kept asking the pastor, is it Christmas yet? Is it Christmas yet? So that's why we have the candles. It's kind of not so much a countdown. Well, it kind of is, but it's not so much a countdown as it is a symbolic act recognizing our hopeful anticipation in the light of Christ coming into the world. And that's why we have the Advent wreath. So in the key detail of Advent is the hope of welcoming our Lord and Savior, Jesus, at Christmas. And this is the final prophecy. And this is where we're going to end tonight, is this prophecy from Isaiah chapter 9. Now, Isaiah was a prophet in the Old Testament. And a prophet by God was sent by God to share God's message with others. So Isaiah said this, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. Now, this is a key teaching, a foretelling of the birth of Jesus. He goes on. For to us a child is born, and to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now, why I wanted to end with those words from Isaiah is that they are the kind of like the framing words for our entire season of Advent. He's saying this one is going to be born, the Son of God is going to be born, and he's going to be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And that's our hope. So that hope leads us to light the first candle, which is a candle of hope and peace and joy and love. So there's the candles. The first candle is hope, peace, joy, and love. And then the center candle, the white candle, that's lit on Christmas Eve. So then all 5 candles are all lit together. And the third candle is typically pink because in the season of Lent, or in the season of Advent, it's kind of like Lent, where you're talking about preparing and doing scripture devotions and prayer. But the third week is kind of like a joyful week. It's a celebration week. It's kind of like break the reflective tone of Advent and let's celebrate this wonderful season. So that's why the third candle is pink, because it's different than the other more somber, reflective Sundays in Advent. So that's kind of cool. These are things that I kind of thought were kind of like, why do we do this? Why do we have 3 blue candles and 1 pink candle and 1 white candle? Well, that's kind of like how we have it all, everyone. So this is our Advent wreath at our house. It was given to us last year by one of our members of our former congregation. Since we have 4 candles, we have some, as you can see, some unique dessert plates. And for the photo, Katie, our daughter, only wanted 4 plates since there's only 4 candles. And we light a candle every night at supper. And now we have 2 candles. Now this week, we'll have candle number 3. The pink candle will be this upcoming Sunday. And hopefully all of you can kind of talk to your mom and dad, like, do we have an Advent wreath? Can we light a candle tonight? Symbolic of Advent. So finally, who needs Christmas? We continue our series, everyone, this upcoming Sunday with God needing Christmas. And I thank you for tuning in tonight, or whenever you watch this, tonight, next week, or tomorrow afternoon, or whatever. But I do feel it's great to be with all of you and to share a little bit about myself and my family, and a way for you to get to know me. And once things settle down and we get back to a safer dynamic in worship, I certainly look forward to meeting all of you face to face, getting to know your story and getting to know your parents as well. But for now, we'll just do these videos and see what we can do moving forward in this wonderful season of Advent. I hope all of you are doing well, staying safe, and I certainly look forward to meeting all of you soon. So let me do this here. And again, let's close with a word of prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this time together and the technology that allows us to share some great information. I pray for all who are watching this video, these 7th and 8th graders, these confirmation students, as they nurture their faith in this holy season of Advent. And even though there are some limiting realities with this technology, Lord, we're doing the best we can, and we look forward to how your Holy Spirit guides us forward. Be with us this night, or whenever we watch this video, be with us as we live out our faith each day. And all God's children said, amen. Well, blessings to all of you. Thank you for taking your time and enduring all those photos, but I hope you appreciated learning a little bit more about me as your new pastor. And I look forward to learning more about you and your family and your story and your joys and once we get back together again. Blessings to all of you, and hope to see you soon. But until then, just keep watching us on Facebook Live and continue nurturing your faith in this wonderful, uplifting season. Take care, everyone. Thanks for your time. See you soon.